Hi everybody, hope you're all doing really well and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Loveless by Alice Oseman. So if you don't know what this book is about, it's about a young girl called Georgia who's an 18-year-old headed off to university for the first time, and at a final going away party at her high school she kind of comes to the realisation that the guy she's had a crush on for the last few years, she doesn't actually have a crush on him and has kind of fabricated the whole thing. She's never kissed anyone, never had a relationship, and she kind of decides that upon going to university she's going to try and have those experiences there and kind of enlist the help of her new roommate Rooney after seeing how confident Rooney is with her sexuality and going out and getting with people at clubs and things like that. And then this sort of sends Georgia on a sort of journey of questioning her sexuality, especially after she learns the terms asexual and aromantic, and when she meets members of the university's Pride Society, and everything kind of goes from there. So I absolutely loved this book. I mean, obviously this has a lot of personal connections from me being asexual myself, so obviously I was able to connect with a lot of the things that Georgia was going through in this book, although Georgia is aromantic and I am not, sort of thing, so that was quite interesting to see an aromantic point of view. So far my experience with asexual representation so far has been ace and eros, so when, kind of looking forward to the day when I come across someone that's maybe biromantic or panromantic or something like that on top of things. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Loveless, which is honestly just a fantastic book, though I really enjoyed this one. Georgia is a really great protagonist. Her experience with navigating relationships in this book and love in this was very familiar, and I loved how her character was explored in this book. The balance between her shyness and her confidence when she's around her friends was awesome. Like, you really just get a good sense that she is just introverted. And that's kind of where perhaps her lack of confidence in things comes from. And I like how she's quite a flawed character, she does make mistakes without realising it. And since she's thrown off by these things that she's discovering about herself, she's so caught up in what she's doing that she kind of forgets to take into account how she's affecting and even hurting others around her. I really loved her friendship with Rooney as well, and how that develops in the course of the book, and how she makes amends with Pip and Jason after she accidentally pushes them away from her. Their friend group was really sweet. Rooney as a character, she was really great as well. You kind of don't really know what to make of her to begin with, because she's this very overconfident, extroverted person who seems to make friends with absolutely everyone around her. George is even quite jealous of her to begin with. It's like, oh, how is she able to do that? How is she able to just go and be so confident and stuff? We actually find that's perhaps sort of, shallowness to that kind of behaviour and stuff that even Rooney starts to feel the effects of as the book goes on and stuff, and she's actually quite a lonely person. So I think that sets a really good sort of foundation for her and George's friendship to kind of build as the book goes on. I really wasn't sure how big of a character Rooney was going to be in this book, but I really liked that she was actually one of the main characters and stuff, because you couldn't quite tell to begin with. Pip and Jason were really great characters as well. They provide a really interesting backdrop to Georgia and stuff, and especially since they're in sort of different dormitories and different schools, they're almost off doing other things, so you definitely understand why Georgia feels so out of her depth now that she doesn't really have Pip and Jason around all the time to cling to, in that way that introverts do when you've got your friends and you're in a completely new place. I was definitely thrown in the deep end when I came to university because I knew one person, and, well, I knew two people, one of whom was my flatmate, and I only really saw her at home. We were doing completely different courses, and then my best friend from home, who was a year above me in a completely different college sort of thing, she was just in the city sort of thing, but I would see her from time to time. So I definitely completely understand that whole, okay, yeah, I've got a couple of friends around, but I am completely on my own sort of thing, that you feel like George is going through and stuff. And that said, I did really like Pip and Jason as characters. I really liked they definitely, despite the fact that they are perhaps, plot devices, I guess, for Georgia's story, they are still characters in and of their own right, and I feel that they definitely take up a good amount of space in this book. And I really just liked how they react to different things, because they react in a very human way to the things that are going on around them. And it just kind of shows you that you've got to be really careful if you're, questioning your sexuality and experimenting and stuff, because you can hurt other people and you can hurt your own friends if you're not careful, sort of thing. So I did really like that sort of the author to discuss that kind of aspect of things. Plot-wise, this is very much a character-developed book, a character-led book sort of thing, but the plot definitely sort of works in the context and stuff, and how it lifts up the characters and things like that, which is quite good. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about that, because like I said, most of it is kind of the character journey and stuff rather than the plot. The plot just kind of, exists to further the character journey sort of thing. So if you like sort of character-led books, this is definitely going to be for you. But I really just have to take time to talk about the asexual representation in this book, because it is what it's known for. I did really like the ace representation in this book. I think it's important to understand there are people who just don't feel those kind of attractions towards other people, and George's experience definitely highlights the shame that a lot of people feel for not having those same rites of passage as many of their peers, and it did a really good job as well of showing just how confusing the concept can be to some people, even within the LGBTQ plus community. You know, I've had plenty of gay and queer friends and stuff who'll tell them I'm ace and they sort of go, well, how does that work, sort of thing, especially when you start to explain the fact that it's a spectrum and the fact that, you know, you can have sex positive aces, you can have sex neutral aces, sort of like, well, once you kind of really delve into what the spectrum is like, it confuses a lot of people, and that's completely understandable because it's still a fairly, you know, not new concept, but I think we're still trying to find ways to explain it to other people, kind of stuff, which kind of makes it a bit interesting in the context of the LGBTQ plus community. You know, and George's experience is definitely one of a sex repulsed asexual person as well, which was definitely interesting to see on page, because I think so far I've only really read sex neutral aces when they come up in fiction. But I do think this book could have maybe mentioned that spectrum a bit more. You know, it definitely only went down the route of an ace and aro with no conversation around asexual people who experience romantic attraction, or even aro people who experience sexual attraction, or even those people who are sex positive and stuff. You know, I kind of would have liked if it had a little bit more discussion about that, but I don't think it distracts from the book that to not have those discussions. You know, this is a book about one person's identity and experience, you know, not an idiot's guide for asexuality and the spectrum. And I think, because I read quite a few harsh reviews where people were like really pissed off that it was just a sex repulsed, asexual, aromantic person, and it's like, you know, this isn't an idiot's guide to asexuality, this is just a story about one kind of person, you know, like that's like expecting every single book that features a gay character to talk about like every single LGBTQ plus, you know, identity, or talk about the different ways you can be gay or something. Like, you know, that's not what you want from a book. This is just a story about this one person, and I think it's incredibly silly to be like, oh, but it doesn't talk about this, it doesn't talk about that. It's like, it never said it was going to. It's just a coming of age story for Georgia. And a lot of the stuff that this character does experience, you know, does apply to a lot of different people on the ace spectrum. You know, one bit that really got me was how Georgia almost needed to choose who she had a crush on, and her brain would almost react to how she wanted it to. You know, that's definitely something I did when I was a teenager and confused about my sexuality, and the more I got to know the person I you know, had a crush on, I'd be like, ooh, actually, I have absolutely no idea why I fancy this person. I think it's just because my brain was like, oh, this is something we should be doing, and they seem like an okay option, like things, you know. It definitely seems to be a thing that a lot of ace people do, because it's something some of my friends and I have talked about before as well. Similarly with how she always forces herself to go on dates and try to kiss people, you know, there is that part of you that's like, right, let's just force this and see where it goes, sort of thing, because you constantly have everyone telling you, oh, you know, you can't prove a negative, sort of thing, so you almost do feel that pressure to try and prove that you are asexual, kind of things like that. You know, obviously that's not a healthy position to be in, so I really liked that this book discussed this and how it can be harmful to Georgia and to other people as well, sort of thing. So I thought that was handled quite well, I think. I also just loved how this book highlighted how friendships are just as important as relationships and shouldn't take a backseat to relationships. You know, as an ace person, you do feel left behind when your friends go off and get partners, and obviously you're happy for them, but like, I've definitely noticed at least a few of my friends who straight up drop off the face of the earth the minute they get a boyfriend or girlfriend. And it does make you feel like a second class citizen in their eyes, like your friendship is only important to them when they're single and they don't have anyone else to talk to, sort of thing. Which then makes it confusing, because then you have this want for companionship and you're like, okay, but do I want a relationship, or do I just want someone to still care about me and our friendship when they're in a relationship? And I think this book really hit the nail on the head of that, and how that contributes to just the confusing experience that is being asexual, sorts of things. Because, you know, I always sort of joke that, you know, one of the first things people like to say to people when they're like, oh, I'm asexual, it's like, you're not asexual, you're just confused. It's like, no, I'm asexual and I'm confused, because kind of to be ace is in of itself confusing. Because you spend this entire time being like, oh, am I ace? Oh, but maybe it's just not, I've not experienced a few things. Or, but I see everyone the same, so am I actually pansexual? You know, you kind of go around in all these circles of like, ooh, I don't know, because you've got society and other people just telling you all these different things, and it's very, very difficult, I think, to stick to one label, sort of thing. And that's kind of why I tend to actually go for queer these days, is because at the end of the day, sexuality is fluid and it all changes, and it is just quite confusing to be ace, because at the end of the day, yes, there are some things that you know about yourself, but there are some things that you don't, like I said, because sometimes you want that companionship and you're like, oh, but is that a relationship I want, or do I just want to be important to somebody? And yes, I really liked how this book just highlighted how friendships should be as important as relationships, if not more so, and just because someone's ace doesn't mean that you can just ditch them the minute you've got a relationship going on and stuff. It's like, hey, actually remember about your friends when they're kicking about. So yes, just overall really fantastic book, really great read, even if you aren't asexual and you just want a fun contemporary coming of age story, you know. I liked that this one was set in university as well instead of high school, which is where you tend to get a lot of these types of books. You know, I feel that for a lot of people, university is actually where a lot of people come into themselves. I really liked the setting for this one. You know, I feel like a lot more coming of age stories should and could be university age. So yeah, I really liked the writing as well. It was very easy to read. I read it in basically one go, and like I said, it was paced really well. The character development was really great. There were flawed characters. There were amends needed to be made and stuff like that. Nothing felt, you know, toxic or anything like that. You know, it was developed in a really great way, and yeah, just overall really great book. I would highly recommend it. That's it from this review. Let me know if you've read Loveless by Alice Oseman. If you've read any of Alice Oseman's other books that you think I might like, let me know below. I've only ever really read Loveless and I've seen the Heartstopper TV show, but that's been it for me. So let me know if there's any other books that you think I would enjoy by Alice Oseman. What's your favourite Alice Oseman book? Do let me know below in the comments. If you've reached the end of this video, feel free to leave a like and feel free to subscribe. I post 2 videos a week. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.